6 subtle signs an elderly person may be near the end, what families miss until it's too late. Have you ever sat quietly, maybe sipping a cup of tea, and just felt something had changed in someone you love, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what it was? Maybe it's a parent, a partner, or a dear friend. You notice little things, less energy in their step, more time spent resting, a distant look in their eyes. And even though everything seems fine on the surface, your heart tells you something is different. That quiet feeling, that subtle shift, sometimes it's nothing. But other times, it's the early sign of something deeper. When we're older, our bodies speak in whispers. They don't always shout when something is wrong. And if we're not listening closely enough, those whispers can go unheard until it's too late. That's why we're having this conversation today. It's not to alarm you, but to empower you. Because the truth is, many families don't notice the signs that someone is nearing the end of life until the very last days. And it's not because they don't care. It's because the signs are often subtle, gentle, easy to miss unless you know what to look for. So in this video, we're going to talk about 6 of those signs. Not the dramatic ones you might see in movies or read about online, but the real, lived moments that caregivers, hospice nurses, and loved ones often notice only in hindsight. My goal is to help you recognize these early clues so you can respond with love, presence, and support when it matters most. Let's begin with the first sign, and it's one that surprises people: a quiet withdrawal from daily life. Now, this doesn't look like sadness or depression necessarily. It's more subtle. Maybe your loved one used to enjoy chatting on the phone, watching the news, or doing a crossword puzzle in the morning. But lately, they've started pulling back, just a little. They might skip the TV altogether, ignore the ringing phone, or seem uninterested in things they once found enjoyable. Conversations become shorter. Social visits become tiring, even when it's just family. They may still smile. They may still say, "I'm fine." But you notice a soft dimming in how they engage with the world. This kind of withdrawal is often emotional before it's physical. It's as if the person is gently turning inward, almost like they're starting to say goodbye in their own quiet way. And here's something important to know: it doesn't always mean they're giving up. Sometimes, it's the body and spirit beginning a natural process of letting go. The energy they once used to keep up with the world around them is now being redirected inward, toward rest, reflection, or simply being. If you see this happening, the most helpful thing you can do isn't to push them to snap out of it or to go back to how they used to be. Instead, sit with them. Hold their hand. Let them lead the pace. Your presence, of calm and without expectation, can be more comforting than any activity or conversation. The second sign is something most people chalk up to aging, but it can carry deeper meaning: changes in appetite and thirst. Now, of course, our appetites change as we get older. That's no surprise. But what I'm talking about here is a more noticeable shift. Maybe your loved one suddenly starts eating much less, or nothing at all. They might stop asking for snacks, skip meals they once enjoyed, or take just a bite or two before pushing the plate away. They might say food doesn't taste right, or that they're simply not hungry. The same goes for water. You might notice they're barely sipping from a glass that would have been empty in an hour just a few weeks ago. And here's the key: they don't seem to mind. They're not complaining. They're not asking for alternatives. They're just not interested. This happens because, as the body begins to slow down, its need for fuel decreases. Digestion takes energy, and when that energy is needed elsewhere, like for breathing or staying comfortable, the body naturally shifts away from food and water. Of course, it's always good to rule out medical causes. Infections, medications, and even dental issues can make eating harder. But if you've checked those things and the decline continues, especially alongside other subtle changes, it may be more than just a dietary issue. What can you do? Don't force it. Offer small, favorite bites now and then. Think of comfort foods. Soft textures. A spoonful of pudding. A sip of juice. But more than anything, offer your attention. Sit with them. Ask if they want to be fed gently. Sometimes the act of feeding is more about connection than nutrition. And now, this brings us to a third sign, and it might surprise you: more sleep and a different kind of tiredness. This isn't just about napping more during the day, though that's part of it. It's about a shift in how the body responds to wakefulness. Your loved one might start sleeping longer through the night, taking multiple naps during the day, or even dozing off mid-conversation. They may seem harder to wake or drift off more easily, even in a room full of activity. But it's not just about being sleepy, it's about a deeper kind of fatigue. The kind that doesn't go away with rest. The body is slowly conserving its energy. Systems are slowing down, and sleep becomes a place of peace, of retreat. It's nature's way of easing the body into what's next. If you find yourself wondering, why are they so tired all the time, or they used to be up and about, what happened? This might be why. Again, don't fight it. Let them rest. Make their space peaceful. Dim the lights. Turn on soft music if they enjoy it. And when they're awake, be there with them, even if just sitting in silence. That simple act, being quietly present, can be incredibly meaningful. These early signs may feel small on their own, easy to brush off or explain away. But taken together, they can be the body's gentle way of preparing for the next chapter. And knowing what to look for can help you respond not with fear, but with compassion, patience, and love. Now, let's talk about something that can often feel confusing to family members: sudden moments of clarity or alertness after a period of decline. This one catches people off guard. Picture this: you've watched your loved one grow more tired, more withdrawn. They've stopped eating much, they sleep a lot, maybe they haven't said much in days. And then, out of nowhere, they sit up in bed. They smile. They talk clearly. They ask how you're doing. For a moment, it feels like they're back. It's tempting to believe this means they're getting better. That maybe all the worry was for nothing. But in many cases, this moment of clarity is part of the natural process as someone nears the end. It's known by hospice nurses and caregivers as a rally, a burst of energy and lucidity that sometimes happens a day or two before passing. No one knows exactly why it happens. Some believe it's the mind and spirit's way of saying goodbye. Others say it's a final gift, one last chance to connect, to share a memory, or to simply feel like yourself again. If this happens, cherish it. Be fully present. Listen without rushing. Let them talk. Ask questions if they're able. Smile with them. Laugh with them if it feels right. These moments are precious, and while they may not last, the memory of them will stay with you forever. Now, another subtle sign that many families don't recognize right away is a shift in breathing patterns. This one is quieter, slower to creep in. You might notice your loved one's breaths becoming shallow. Or maybe they start breathing faster for a while, then stop, then start again. Sometimes, there are long pauses between breaths, what's called apnea. And at first, it's easy to think it's just due to sleep or even anxiety. But over time, this irregularity becomes more noticeable. The body, as it prepares to slow down, begins to change how it breathes. It might be less rhythmic, less predictable. You might even hear a faint gurgling sound. That's something called the death rattle, and while it sounds concerning, it usually doesn't mean the person is in pain. It's simply the result of saliva or fluid in the throat as the muscles become too relaxed to clear it. Now I want to pause here and say, this can be a difficult thing to witness, especially if you're not expecting it. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed or unsure. But here's something that might bring comfort. Many people in this stage are not aware of the changes happening. They're not gasping. They're not struggling. They're simply shifting into a new rhythm. A softer one. A slower one. If you notice this, keep the environment calm. Use soft lighting. Keep noise to a minimum. If hospice is involved, they can often provide medication or positioning tips to ease the sound and make breathing more comfortable. And if hospice isn't yet part of the picture, this may be a sign it's time to reach out to them. I know that can feel like a big step, but it's not giving up. It's leaning in. It's choosing comfort and peace when it matters most. And that brings us to one more sign that many people overlook: changes in skin color and temperature, especially in the hands, feet, and face. You may begin to notice that your loved one's hands or feet feel colder than usual. Sometimes, they might appear bluish or purple, especially around the fingernails or lips. The skin may become mottled, meaning it develops a blotchy or marbled pattern. This usually starts in the lower parts of the body and slowly moves upward. It's a result of the body's circulation slowing down. As the heart pumps less efficiently, blood flow to the extremities decreases. This isn't painful. It's not dangerous. It's simply another sign that the body is shifting focus from keeping every system running to simply keeping the person comfortable. If you notice this, try adding a soft blanket or a warm compress to the hands or feet. But don't worry too much about making everything feel normal. At this stage, comfort is more important than correction. And above all, your presence matters more than any physical gesture. Just being there. Sitting close. Holding a hand, even if it feels cool to the touch. These small things create a sense of safety, of love, of belonging. You see, when someone is nearing the end, they often sense it before we do. Even if they don't say it out loud. Even if they're not fully awake. There's a quiet awareness, a sacred kind of knowing. And while the body is slowing down, the spirit remains wide open. Open to connection. To love. To presence. That's why recognizing these signs isn't about predicting the exact moment or day. It's about honoring the journey, helping someone feel seen, heard, and loved as they transition from this life in the most peaceful way possible. Sometimes, the most powerful signs aren't physical at all, they come from the emotional and spiritual side. This brings us to the sixth and final subtle sign, a sense of emotional release or readiness to go. This one doesn't always show up the way people expect. There's no dramatic farewell or clear goodbye. Instead, it can be something as simple as your loved one saying, "I'm tired," or "I think I'm ready to rest." They might not even use words. You might notice a softening in their face, a stillness that wasn't there before. Maybe they stop asking about the next doctor's appointment or no longer seem interested in upcoming plans. Sometimes, they start talking about people who've passed long ago, as if they're already reaching across a bridge we can't quite see. Or they speak in vague, dreamy phrases like, "I'll see you soon," or "I'm going on a trip." It can feel confusing or surreal, especially if they were never very spiritual. But many people nearing the end experience this gentle shift in awareness, an emotional loosening, a quiet readiness. As someone who loves them, it can be hard to hear. We want to hold on. We want to keep hope alive. But these moments aren't about giving up, they're about letting go, peacefully, with grace. If you notice this kind of emotional openness, lean into it with love. You don't have to say a lot. A simple "I'm here with you," or "you're not alone," can mean everything. There's nothing more powerful than being present with someone when they feel safe enough to release their grip on this life. And here's something important. Just because someone is showing these signs doesn't mean they'll pass tomorrow, or even next week. Every journey is different. Some people show these signs for weeks, even months. Others transition more quickly. What matters most is not trying to predict the timeline, but recognizing what their body and spirit might be asking for. More than anything, this is a time for connection. A time to say things you've always meant to say, even if you're not sure they can hear you. And yes, even if you've said them before. I love you. Thank you. I forgive you. Please forgive me. These are not just words, they are gifts. And even when spoken softly, even when whispered beside a sleeping ear, they land where they need to. Because as strange as it may sound, this time, this sacred window, is not only about death. It's about life. About how we show up for one another. About love, kindness, grace, and courage. It's about holding a hand through the unknown, and honoring every breath as a part of the story you've shared together. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel afraid, or angry, or unsure. You're human. This is one of the hardest things we ever go through. But it's also one of the most meaningful. And you don't have to go through it alone. Talk to your loved one's care team. Ask about hospice support, even if you think it's too soon. Hospice doesn't mean the end is here. It means comfort. It means extra hands, extra hearts. People who can help you understand what's happening and be there with you every step of the way. And if you're the one facing these changes in yourself, if you've been noticing these signs in your own body, I want to speak to you directly. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are deeply loved. And this time in your life, however long or short, holds incredible beauty. Let people in. Let them walk with you. Let them help carry the load. Because you don't have to be strong all the time. You just have to be real. And being real is more than enough. As we come to the end of this conversation, let's take a breath together. Just one deep breath. In and out. If this video has spoken to you, if it's helped you feel even a little more prepared or a little more seen, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Whether you've walked this road before, or you're on it now, your words could bring comfort to someone else who's just beginning. And if you found this helpful, give the video a like, and subscribe for more warm, honest conversations just like this one. Remember, love doesn't end when life does. It carries on, in memories, in stories, in the way we care for one another. You are doing more than you know. And every kind word, every gentle touch, every quiet moment spent beside someone you love, it all matters. Here's to living and loving, with heart, with courage, and with presence. At any age, in any moment, and especially in the moments that matter most.